has travelled all the way from Queensland to South Australia to honour his mate Clem Smith. And Jeff, I understand you guys go back a long way.
Yeah, we do. Clem's been a great buddy for a lot of years, and to be honest, without Clem I wouldn't be here. He's been a great guy.
So tell me about how excited you are to get behind the wheel of a sports sedan. It's been a year since you drove.
Yeah, a year's a long time in a race car, and prior to that year there was 2 years, so it's been gets a bit of getting used to again, but it'll be right. We should be, as long as we can be on that Clem Smith Cup, I'll be happy.
And race one of the Kerrick Sports Sedans, the grid looks like this. Starting out of pole position, it's Darren Hossack. Alongside him, Tony Ricciardello. Then we go further back down the field to Banks in 8th spot and Damien Johnson. He rounds out the 11-car grid that will take part in the Clem Smith Trophy. Let's take a look at the highlights of race one.
Race one, round two of the Kerrick Sports Sedan National Series from Mallala, the Clem Smith Cup weekend. And on the opening lap, Michael Robertson in the Monaro had some dramas.
Yeah, Mark Nelson unfortunately followed on the same corner just a lap later, turning the Saab around.
Big Dodge engine not doing him any good there. Wasn't a very good start to race one with Robertson spinning off again, this time with Neil Bryson. And unfortunately, the newcomer to sports sedan racing in the Calibra was unable to continue.
I'd never like to see the tilt tray involved. Ricciardello and Hossack were just awesome, as we have come to expect. Have a look at this for some competition. The boys were really having at it.
So it was the final lap of the race, and then it all got a little bit more serious as the pair came together in the final corner.
Yes, and the dust was to, well, fly well and truly after the race as well. Des Wall was given the win. Hossack was stripped of it. Ricciardello second, Jeff Barnes in third, and Bobby McLaughlin rounding out the four.
You know, it's pretty disappointing. You can race side by side with someone for so many years and they start rubbing guards and pushing you around. It's, you know, setting a precedence, and, you know, what goes around comes around.
Well, race two on the program is the Clem Smith Cup. Let's take a look at the grid for this one. It's going to be an interesting race because these guys are going to be pushing hard. It's Des Wall that starts from pole position, Tony Ricciardello alongside him. Wilson will start out of position 8. Then we go all the way back to the rear of the grid where Neil Bryson will be starting out of position 11. Clem, this must be a great honour having this race named in your honour.
Yes, I'm very proud of that. Yeah. Sports sedans are my favourite in the racing days, and yeah, so we like to support the sports sedans. Yeah.
And you get a lap of honour in this magnificent beast. Tell us about that.
Well, we're seeing it's called Clem Smith Cup, so I'm allowed to lead them around. Yeah.
Well, enjoy your time out there. All the very best. Well, as we get ready for this one, Julie Nemi's been down and caught up with a few of the drivers. Here's what they had to say.
Well, we had a bit of an incident during that race. I got a bit excited after the first lap trying to keep up with Jeff and Des and spun it, so that put me back to the back of the field, and then getting through the field I had a bit of a clash with a slower car which did a bit of damage, so I'm going to have to change my front tyres. So really just getting the car back in order to try and I got back to 6, so hopefully get up into the 2 or 3 for the main race.
We get set for race number 2, and there's more needle out there than a hypodermic factory. Wow.
The war that is evolving between Darren Hossack and Tony Ricciardello continues. Hossack from the back of the field as the Clem Smith Cup gets underway at Mallala Raceway.
Desi Wall is back. The awesome Chevy Corvette is in there, and now watch for the Audi Spares #1 entry of Hossack to come through.
He's already passed 2 cars, and there will be more. No, wait, that's 3 now. So he is flying through the field. Bob McLaughlin up to 3rd place in the Commodore, just ahead of Jeff Barnes there in the LaBella Roma Trans Am Firebird. Great looking car. And Darren Hossack is now right up behind Mark Nelson.
The distinctive bright ready colours of the Red Rooster entry charging at the moment. How good to have Des Wall back when you think it was a fire, wasn't it, last year that all but destroyed that car?
Yeah, and he returned to Wakefield Park, round 1 of the championship with the series this year, and had some dramas, but eventually came through and scored a really good result. So he's back, he's committed to the year, and it should be an exciting one at that. Side-by-side battle now, McLaughlin and Hossack on the comeback trail, stripped of the win in race 1 after the contact with Tony Ricciardello.
Oh, no!
That won't help his cause. McLaughlin's gone off, and there's some serious damage to the back of the Audi.
Wow, it's all happening now, isn't it? There it is. It's a fiberglass striptease. Maybe Barnes will get a bit of a look at some of the rear end geometry of that car now and a bit of a look. And Hossack's continuing on, though.
Well, it's nothing structural. It won't affect the makeup of the car, I guess. Here's a replay. Just McLaughlin a little bit too hot under brakes and tagged the back of the Audi. The fiberglass body shell And you'd hope, though, that that will strip away for Darren Hossack's sake, so he won't get black flagged and be told to report to pit lane, so that can be cleaned up.
Barnesy charging hard. Wow, have a look at the front splitter then, absolutely vibrating through on the Audi. Barnes is closing in on him too. So you get the feeling that maybe all is not well with Hossack's car.
No, it'll affect the aero balance of the car as well, and these cars rely so much on their aerodynamics, the big rear wing and the front splitters to create downforce, and this will affect the handling of that car, and he won't be able to get ultimate lap time out of it. As good as Darren Hossack is, it's going to be a challenge. So Des Wall in the Corvette looking pretty good. And now Darren Hossack's got to go on the defensive from a fired-up Barnes. He's having a great weekend so far.
Yeah, doing a wonderful job. They're such a visually exciting race car, aren't they, the Sports Sedans? Another car off the racetrack. Was that the same car?
I think it was.
McLaughlin again.
In the Commodore. So that's a shame. McLaughlin's having a really tough weekend.
Bruce Banks out of Tasmania, the BJ Banks electrical Mazda RX-7. Mark Nelson's out of the race. Let's go down to Gordo in the pits.
Not where you wanted to be. What's the story?
Oh no, the car was going really well after a few incidents in the first race, and just came down out of the pit straight corner here, and I was stuck in second, and don't know what's wrong with it. Obviously been a selector fork or something, so I'm not sure.
We take a look at the RX-7 racing a Tirana, and nowhere else in the world would those two cars mix it up on the same space of racetrack. Johnson in the Tirana, great looking car, as they all are. You can say that ad nauseum about this category.
21 car of Graham Gilliland, the Mazda RX-7, the P&L Mechanical G&G Engineering entry. And McLaughlin has certainly been a busy man, hasn't he?
Yeah, busy all weekend, up and down the leaderboard like a bit of a yo-yo in this race, unfortunately. A couple of offs have hurt him, but great to see the Commodore back out there.
Nothing is ever what it seems in this category, is it? You might have this massive big Chevy or a Dodge or something like that be underneath the bonnet. You're never really sure what is going to be what. We take a look at the Harrop Engineering number 19 car of Damien Johnson.
Six-cylinder Tirana V8 Commodore behind, rotary-powered Mazda RX-7 in front. So how's that for variety?
I like it that way.
Spice of life.
Absolutely. And this is just a category that continues to bristle with new cars.
Here we go.
Wow, Hossack takes Des Wall easily on the inside, and you can see that looks like Ian Wilson is out of the race as well. We'll go down to Grant Boyden in pit lane in just a moment and find out what's the word. Boydo, down to you.
Well, unfortunately, your car number 8's down here in pit lane. Why is that?
It was going well, but we missed shift from second to third. The linkages are a bit average, so it just caught the linkage and it's jammed in third gear, so no point in staying out there.
That's a shame for Wilson. Only slapped this car together, for lack of a better term, like the Thursday night before this race meeting. They were still building that Falcon, so a huge effort to literally get it to the racetrack and get it on track and running. So Hossack moves up to second place. Don't forget, this is the Clem Smith Cup, the marquee race, and Clem puts up $5 grand worth of prize money for this field for this race. The promoter of Mallala Raceway for a long time and owner of a 1970 Chrysler Charger Sports sedan that lives in the garages here at Mallala, and every year he drags it out and does a lap leading this field round on the pace lap before they get unleashed on his racetrack. A great supporter of sports sedan racing. Needs to be more people like that getting involved in other categories, alternate categories, and putting their money where their mouth is. In the old-fashioned days of actually promoting a motor race. It's great to see.
He's a Mallala Motorsport Mopar man. There's no doubt about it. We take a look at Des Wall, whose kid David, I say kid with respect, his son David is a tremendous bright light on the Australian motorsport horizon, mainly in Porsche and also some V8 supercar stuff as well. Very handy racer.
Look at the bodywork moving around on Darren Hossack's car. You could see it when he jumped on the brakes and the change of direction between turns 7 and 8. So some structural issues for the John Goulet Audi Spares A4. Big Chevy V8 in the front. Did a photo shoot earlier in this weekend, that car with Clem Smith's Charger and Darren's Superkart that he races this weekend as well at Mallala in the Superkart Nationals, and wearing number 1 on the side of both of them. So a fair achievement from last season for Hossack.
I was just going to say that he won 2 championships last year. Very handy racer. Also has a lot of dirt prowess as well. As we take a look at Banks in the impressive-looking Mazda.
It is, isn't it? Here goes Hossack. He's working on Johnson to put him a lap down, with Des Wall behind. For Wall, this is a good performance because he can afford to be consistent now after the fracas between Ricciardello and Hossack in race 1. for round points, as far as points go, right now Waller's looking pretty good, a first and a third if they finish the way they are.
Bit of a war of words in the pitch between them two, certainly not to each other, but to our cameras, so that'll liven things up even further. Graham Gilliland is a bit of a newcomer to the Kerrick National Sports Sedan Series. We spoke with him a little earlier today.
My name's Graham Gilliland. I'm from Victoria, Toowoomba in Victoria, which is between Gisborne and Melton. I've been in sports sedans now for 7 years, and before that I was at the Thunderdome. I love Mallala, that's why I keep on coming to the national rounds here. And the next round we're going to is Oran Park, and I'm hoping that's my favourite track as well.
So great to see Graham in the category. And you know what, back to this rivalry, that it's not great that they come to blows on the racetrack in a war of words in pit lane, but a rivalry like this is only going to be good for sports sedan racing, because it's promotable, isn't it? You can really market a series around this great rivalry, as has been done in V8s, as has been done in NASCAR and Utes and sprint car racing. It's a great thing, and if they keep it civil and just go at it as hard as they can on the racetrack, it's a great rivalry that's only going to benefit this category.
Well, it's not very often that Australians get passionate about a battle between an Audi and an Alfa, but in this case they certainly will do, and that's what sports sedan gifts to the public. People start to follow exotic cars they wouldn't have before. There it is, 1 lap to go at the B&M Ricciardello Motors Alfa. It's getting long in the tooth, this car. Hard to believe how old it really is.
Well, their times just get faster and faster. Fastest times in qualifying for a couple of years here at Mallala for sports sedans. So the pace is still there. He's got a big margin over Hossack, who had to work his way from the back of the field and also had some dramas. There's the beautiful Monaro. Isn't that a stunning thing?
The Vital Stats, number 32 car, the Bell Real Estate entry of Michael Robinson out of Victoria. He had his dramas in race 1 when he spun the car, but it's looking a lot more settled now. Meanwhile, we're ready to get the checkered flag on this one.
The Vital Stats are this. Tony Ricciardello won the Clem Smith Cup in 2007 and took the prize money home. He's about to do it again. A comprehensive victory makes up for race 1, doesn't it? Ricciardello takes out the Clem Smith Cup at Mallala.
Impressive drive. Hossack charged back through the field to get second. Des Wall was third. Jeff Barnes fourth. Well done, Michael Robinson. Bobby McLaughlin was busy. Bruce Banks and Damien Johnson rounding out the 8.
It's a hotter day than we experienced last time we ran these Michelin tyres, but it worked pretty well for us today. The other guys are just too quick, really. You know, I sort of held Darren off for a little while, but managed to stay with him after that.
We limped around. Whether we'd been fast in that race or limping around second to second, it's still more points, so we'll be on the front row for the last one, and hopefully the guys can fix up the Audi, and we'll go and have another fight.
It's a long race for one of these cars, and it's great just to get the car home in one piece, and you know the tyres really held up great on the car, and I think you know we got our head around the setup, and great to come home with a win.
Well, you worked hard for it, Clem. If you'd like to come in and present him the trophy, you hold it way up to the sky and enjoy. Congratulations, Tony Ricciardello, taking out the Clem Smith Cup for 2009. We're going to take a break, and when we return, we'll be catching up with Julie Neame, who's been out finding a little bit more out about these sports cars.
Now, you might be surprised to hear this at a racetrack, but for some drivers, speed isn't everything. For the sports sedans, using the transaxle gearbox, getting the maximum amount of RPM and torque at the right parts of the circuit is the key to success. The other benefit of the transaxle is having the div and gearbox as one unit. Now, while most race cars are generally front-heavy, the transaxle sits in the back of the car for better weight distribution and improved grip.
Time now for race 3 of the Carrick Sports Sedans. Let's take a look at your grid. It's Darren Hossack on the front row. Tony Ricciardello will start from pole position. Damien Johnson starts out of 8th. And Ian Wilson has been relegated back to 11th spot and the rear of the grid. Well, Julie Neame's been out and caught up with the drivers. Let's hear what they had to say.
We just need the points for the championship, so you know, I'm confident the guys will do a good job, and we'll be right in the next race. We'll be on the front row and be a good race.
We're just cleaning tyres and getting prepared for the next one. We haven't got any real issues, but we haven't got quite the speed of the leaders, but we'll hang in there and see how we go.
Set for a start, and look, he's on the front row together, Richard Crail.
It's on again. The battle continues. Hossack versus Ricciardello. Whoa, Barnes struggling to put the power down on a greasy circuit.
Didn't Jimmy Barnes have an album called Body Swerve at one point?
That was that.
I think that's exactly what it was. Barnes with a swerve, that's for sure. Oh, difficult conditions to say the least here, Krause.
Especially when you've got upwards of 800 brake horsepower like these cars are producing now. It's no wonder they're so fast. There's Barnes, O'Loughlin just behind.
He was busy, wasn't he? Absolutely, in that previous race. And also the Alvi products entry of Mark Nelson. Just behind him, the immaculate Monaro, the 32 car of Michael Robinson. This race, no matter what happens here, both these guys in front are going to be feeling that something will be more than it really is. So they're going to be a bit careful, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's been on all weekend, hasn't it, between these two? In fact, all season, even going back to last year when they fought out the championship, it came down to the final race of the season at Sandown. They rubbed panels there to win it. It was all sort of all's fair in love and war. This weekend, though, things have gone up a notch. It's a little bit more aggressive.
McLaughlin just got passed by Nelson. The 14 Saab, the Alvi car has gone through. You're just watching Ricciardello being very careful there as he feeds the power on gently with these cars. They can snap loose in a heartbeat. Nelson just got by another car by the look of it. We're on board with Darren Hossack.
What a noise on the limiter. Wheel spinning from second to third gear. Here we go. Let's have a listen to this. This is Ricciardello.
I love the short shifting. It's the whole way through. Damien Johnson running the smallest car in the field out there, the Harrop Engineering car. We spoke to him a little earlier.
My name's Damien Johnson. I'm from Melbourne, and we race this Tirana Sports Sedan. Been in motorsport. I started in karting when I was 14, 15 years old. We moved up into cars when I turned 18, 19, and nearly turning 40, and still doing it and loving it. Favourite track, Bathurst by far. Least favourite track, used to be Calder Park, but I'll leave it at that.
This great battle in the midfield continues as drivers struggle to put their power down. There's Banks in the RX-7. This greasy racetrack, 800 horsepower and sports sedans equals fun. Great deals of it. As we continue the action. Race 3, round 2 of the Carrick Sports Sedan Series. Did you see the understeer there?
I think that was Ian Wilson going off the racetrack. Yes, it was. The Falcon, unfortunately, having some dramas. There's the P&L Mechanical number 21 RX-7 of Graham Gilliland from Victoria. On board with Hossack now. He's making some ground. Oh, no, they've both gone off. Oh, Hossack will be filthy about this. Ricciardello comes back on the racetrack. Not again.
Here we go. The battle is on. Hossack versus Ricciardello to the inside for the race lead. Did he give him the right line for turn 1? Johnson's off the racetrack. In the grand scheme of things, that doesn't really matter because this is where it's at. They've come together again.
You're kidding. And they end up almost together in turn 1. Unbelievable. This is unbelievable.
What was a battle is now a war. Hossack drives away, but Ricciardello, there's no fire there. He can't get it fired up.
I'm glad there's no audio there. We'll be hearing some colourful words from the West Aussie. What about that?
You know, Hossack got such a good drive off the final corner. He was alongside, but the question the stewards will ask, was it far enough? Tony Ricciardello would disagree. Bang. Pretty severe hit when you look at it like that.
But was there contact? I didn't feel there was. I actually thought...
Here we go. This will show the story.
Okay.
There was contact.
Yeah, there was.
And it was basically just in front of the rear wheel of Ricciardello's car. And turn 1's not normally a place where you go side by side.
Well, my apologies to both parties there. I didn't think initially that there was any contact, and Ricciardello's not moving any further. I think he might have buckled the right rear wheel as well.
So Darren Hossack, he's lost some time there, had to get the car back into gear and drive away, and Des Wall has closed up. Mr. Consistency this weekend. Let's have a listen.
Very quiet in there from both Tony and the race car.
Trying to bump start it by the sounds of it. So, wow, this battle just goes up to another level. It's gone up in intensity every round. Here's Hossack, and he will be ordered to pit lane. So the stewards have judged that he was in the wrong drive-through penalty. Guess who goes back to the lead? Des Wall.
Wow, and still McLaughlin pretty well struggling in these conditions, and that's absolutely understandable. So Des Wall, oh my goodness gracious. McLaughlin just scatters agriculture all over the racetrack and continues to do so.
It looks like the local farming properties next to the racetrack have moved themselves into it. So that'll just make what is a really difficult track service even worse, but at least it's not in his radiator, blocking his cooling. Here's Nelson. Oh, so this is a replay. So just under brakes on the inside, 2 wheels off. Car skated across the circuit and then did the ploughing act. Lives to fight another day. So Ricciardello's going again though, Wado.
Well, Tony Ricciardello, the body language is pretty evident. The intensity has gone out of his driving style.
Yeah, and it's going to make things really interesting for the series, the Kerrick Sports Sedan series. They're trying to fight out. They went down to the wire last year, and will they do it again this season? Certainly, the intensity has just gone to an entirely different universe from where it was before this weekend.
Going to be interesting in the pits, to say the very least. On the main straightaway comes that beautiful Monaro. Gee, it's a sleek-looking effort, isn't it? 32 car. Not really big on the fairings and stuff, but just kind of sleek. As Tony's circulating just to get points, I would think.
Yeah, we can't tell if that car's got any damage under the skin. Might have bent rear suspension from the contact, perhaps.
Oh, Barnesy!
Just waving people past.
How unlucky is the Labella Roma entry?
It's been fast this weekend too.
Particularly in race 1, he was right on the money for it.
Right up there. He's been looking very, very good. But as we start the final lap, we're on board with Darren Hossack. Penalty or not, he's still second behind Des Wall, a Corvette leading the way.
And he's banging it through the box too. He's really on it, so obviously his dander is up as well. The Audi Spares sponsored Victorian, multi-talented, versatile racer. Like his rival, Tony Ricciardello, who's been, of course, in V8 Supercar stuff as well.
It's fascinating. You can't see Darren. That's how far back they sit in these cars. You can see him in the mirror, though. But that camera positioned in the middle of the race car, and you couldn't actually see his head. That's how far back they sit.
Turbulent, to say the very least. This event has been. Des Wall is the most consistent. Well done to him. Mark Nelson, good job. McLaughlin survived to get third. Banks, Hossack, Wilson getting it back to Michael Robinson, rounding out the 8.
Talk us through what happened.
Oh, look, I mean, sometimes you wonder what bloody people are thinking about, you know, like, out of nowhere, you know, you race each other for so long and you know each other's, you know, good points and bad points, and obviously we're seeing a lot of bad points of someone, you know, like you race side by side, you know, half a lap, and then you just get T-boned straight in the bloody rear wheel, and it's disappointing, you know, like it just ruins a good weekend, and, you know, anyway, see what happens.
We took a bit of a punt and we put an older set of wets on that worked great for us, so we didn't have quite the grip of Tony and Darren, but all worked out, and ours was pretty consistent when the track dried.
I've had a pretty busy weekend. I broke an axle in qualifying, and then had my car jam in second gear in the Clem Smith Cup, and only did 2 laps. So really pleasing to finish third. I think it's the highest finish I've had in the Channel Nationals in 3 years, so really happy.
So the Kerrick Sports Sedan National Series after 2 rounds looks like this, and predictably it's close, but Des Wall is the bit of the surprise, sitting up there in second place in the Corvette. Kerry Bailey is 4th, McLaughlin up to 5th after a very strong round.